will be started. So the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you all.
Live stream is almost on.
Okay.
All good now.
All good? Okay. Right. So for the candidates that are online, I sent a text in chat of Zoom. Can you rename yourself just a little bit so that we can have a name tag properly so that people know that you're running for what position? Okay. So welcome everybody for the EB debate. We had 60 minutes, now there's 52 minutes left. But we have 16 candidates for the EB in total. 4 of them are for EB 23-24, and the rest are for the EB 24-25. I've split them into two terms, so EB 23-24 and then EB 24-25. We'll have 3 questions in total for each candidate. One will be for the entire term, so like EB 23-24, EB 24-25 as a group. There will also be questions for all the candidates related to a single position. So in this case, 3 for the VP, the interim position. And then there will be an individual question asked to all of them. For some candidates, I did not receive a question individually, so I will be taking a question from the floor regarding that. I hope everything is clear. All candidates, you're all clear, or questions? Oh, all good. So we're going to start with EB 23-24 with the question for the whole EB. The question is, I'm going to copy it in Zoom as well. One sec. Okay, so the question is, how will you ensure that president sessions and plenaries are efficient and not repetitive? We will start with the candidate for president and interim, Evelina, then go with Ines, Vedant, and Eleni.
Amazing. Thank you for the question. Actually, this is something that we have already started working in this term and something that we tried to implement, but it was not that clear. So it would be great to also try it out for August meeting, is to add one more round before the actual submission of BCPs that can be a bit problematic as an expression of interest and bring build channels among the proposers. So and also this does not only apply to NMOs, but also to the TO after Tom 2, which is the meeting that we discussed BCP, in order to come to March meeting and August meeting prepared without many controversies and making sure that what we add in the bylaws is something meaningful and impactful. And personally believe in the power of capacity building and needs assessment before we do anything and in advanced session, especially for presidents. So this is something that we have already started. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And before you start, Ines, I forgot to clarified in email, but also want to clarify here. Everybody has 45 seconds for their answers to accommodate the time. Okay, Ines, you can start whenever you want.
I think it's very relevant to actually get Evelina's input on this because the EB is already in office and has started to work on it. I would like to add that on top of this, I think it's really relevant that the documents are available on time and also that they are as clear as possible, because sometimes if the documents are harder to understand and dynamos don't get what the discussion is going to be about, it will be harder and the discussion will be more complex and repetitive and longer. Besides that, I think it's relevant to actually get NMO input in other topics that they want to be discussed and to see discussed that are different from the ones that have been discussed in the previous presidents.
Thank you. Right on time. Vedant?
Thank you so much. I think what was visible from yesterday, I think building on what Evelina said, the early expression of expression of interest by NMOs about BCPs, I think we can work on that further and develop that concept to see how we can save time. Another is early submission of statements and motions. There's something that was done by the plenty team this time. I think that is something that we can do so that we can get the motions validated by CCC on time so that we don't have to correct motions during plenaries and we can save more time. And other than that, earlier or more rigorous PT selection rounds, I think will really help in making sure that the plenary team is efficient, well-established communication between not just the plenary, within the plenary team, but the plenary team and the TO and EB. Thank you.
Thank you. Eleni? Yep.
Shall I start?
Yep, whenever you want.
So to me, organization is key, and that should be done by preparing the presidents before the actual GA. So plenary should be more of a process that will run smoothly if we are all on the same page, be aware of all the ways to navigate through it, as well as the content. So if we invest in that, I feel like it's going to get all more efficient and on point.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll go for the questions for all interim VP candidates. We'll start with Vedant, go with then Eleni, and then Ines at the end. So just gonna facilitate copying for them. So, in light of recent issues with the VPE position, what are your thoughts on managing the workload for yourself as well as future VPEs? Vedant, you can start whenever you want. Unless he dropped the call. I think he's here. Vedant? Hello? I think you're muted.
Yes.
Okay, so the question is for all VP ad interim candidates. You start first, then we have
Okay.
Eleni and Ines. So, in light of recent issues with VP position, what are your thoughts on managing the workload for yourself as well as future VPs?
Can you repeat the last part, Nabosha?
I copied it. So, what are your thoughts on managing the workload for yourself as well as future VPEs?
Okay. Can I start?
Yes.
Thank you so much. So I have personally a bit of a democratic delegative leadership style, which will ensure that the LOs have more autonomy and the EAIT will have a little bit more autonomy in doing their work. So that would personally reduce some workload of the VPE. Another thing is that I have mentioned in my candidature that I would like to start a consultation process with IFMSA alumni on the same topic and include the VP elect or the incoming VP on this, on seeing how we can reform the VP task load. Thank you.
Thank you. Eleni?
So since we currently live in the era of artificial intelligence, I feel like there are lots of tools that can assist us in better organizing our work. And if we take advantage of the team, which is already strong, and each of the people has different skills and can bring things to the table, we can take advantage of them, distribute our tasks, and not only that, but also try to restructure the position of the VP so that in the long term, no matter who is in the team, the position can run more smoothly, as well as the whole pillar of external affairs.
Thank you. Ines, you can go.
I think I was already pretty vocal about my views on all of this. I do believe it's essential to cover the tasks that are essential for the term, like getting back with external partners, actually develop a communication plan with them to make sure that they get the answers they need from us and that we are also more organized. By we, I mean me as VP. And I think it's also important to be a responsible leader of my teams, especially seeing how the EAIT and the LOs can work better with me and how we can manage our dynamics. My main focus, as you know, will be the reform of the position. So taking into account next terms, making it more sustainable. And I think it's important to have the help of officials, assistants, alumni, and NMO input. I think NMO's input is also very relevant regarding this, and we cannot do this reform alone.
Thank you. Evelina, now the question goes for you. Okay, I can't copy it to you. Right. So in the past, we have heard about instances of bullying in IFMSA. How will you address this during the remainder of the term? Do you want me to repeat?
The ending is for the remaining of the term, right?
Yes.
All right. So actually, it's beneficial that in this term the president is as representative of the COCC, and after the first month of the term, we have already started working. So I truly believe that we should promote more and restructure this framework. Also, something that they have been working on is the feedback, the feedback from officials, and also the performance evaluation. So if any instances are identified, we should address them with the VPCB and the subco bodies, and I truly believe in the feedback session before we reach any like official step, because like human relations, especially in multicultural environments, can be tricky. However, I feel that we are people that we can build capacity and improve. So I would build first and invest on personal communication, and then if needed, this will escalate based on the protocols of the COCC and also the communication protocols that we have with SAPCO and EB. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we're going to proceed to questions individually to each VP candidate. I did not receive any questions for Eleni specifically, so I'm going to ask from the floor, but because I can't really see people in Zoom, I'm either going to need to ask online only, or you will need to turn the camera and then I pick someone in the room. But I think it's going to be faster if I just pick someone now from the, what's it called? From Zoom. Okay. We go from the floor, and then for the rest, there is one more candidate for EB 2425, for which I'll ask from Zoom. Okay, anyone from the floor want to ask a question to Eleni? Or on Zoom? Okay. Yeah. Do we have anyone? Anyone online want to ask a question? If not, that's okay. We can just proceed with questions for the other two. Okay. I have no questions. So, Eleni, there's no question for you now. Maybe there will be in the follow-up. In that case, a question for Ines. One sec, it's a long one. I'm gonna copy it for you. So the question is, you withdrew your candidature for LRA in AM23 because you felt overwhelmed by the workload. What changed since then to make you apply for another heavily workloaded position in IFMSA?
I was in a different period of my life during AM, in a very different period in terms of work, in a different period personally. So as you know, I was MM Portugal's NMO president at the time, and I'm not anymore, which is a huge, huge relief in terms of my own management of, you know, my work and all my activities. And I delivered my dissertation since. So after my term ended, I felt a huge relief, and I managed to rest and find a balance within myself. And I realized I could be giving more of my time to IFMSA than I was already doing. And that's why I feel ready, comfortable, and confident to apply to this position now. And I didn't feel that. So I truly believe that now is the right time for me to get into this. And I'm pretty excited to see how it fits into my life.
Thank you. And now question for Vedant. I'm getting it in the chat, Vedant. So how does SAPCO feel about your candidating for VPE and the potential impact on their team?
Thank you so much for this question. As I have discussed earlier about this. I've had the conversation with Subco about me running, and Subco has been encouraging and motivated me to run. I must give a huge shout out to my Subco members. They are what have made me feel empowered in the last 6 months to know that I can lead and take on such a position. I feel being Subco and then being VP, I can take a proactive approach and have active communication between EB and Subco to ensure that Subco's workload reduces in the next few months. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last question for this term would be to Evelina. The question, Evelina, is okay. How will you work on the GA fees reform? What is the timeline for this and the results, potential results?
Amazing. So actually, this is a task that falls under mostly the VPF. However, I truly believe that I can contribute with the experience that I have in this position and also through the present at the interim position. What we want to do and has already started through consultation during TOM 2 and also through the NMO report is to see all of the potential concepts and how each like different scenario impacts participants and the sustainability of the event. So after March meeting, former OCs should be consulted, also alumni that have been involved into that. And another idea that has been brought up is to consult with event companies that they know more how hybrid settings work and how other conferences work in terms of their pricing. And then have rounds of consultation with NMOs, one more round of consultation through the NMO report. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That is all for the candidates for term 23-24. You can go if you want, if you have other obligations as well. I know some of you have some meetings, and for others well, it's not late yet, but it will be soon. Okay, thank you for joining us online. Okay, now for the EB 24-25, we're gonna start as well with a question for all the EB members. Just want to confirm that I have the candidates here now because I didn't have, I think, Grace and Linda, was it?
Nebosha, we have a request from the floor. Sorry for interrupting. If we can start with the CV candidates earlier because they have the CV plenary after the debate.
I understand, but then
And the VPE ad interim, one of the candidates. Sorry, not ad interim, sorry for the next term.
So in that case, we would need to complete the question for all the EB candidates and then specifically just for the VPCB and VPE. And then they would be able to go and we would continue on with the questions for the other candidates. Is that what's being requested? Okay, I can do that. But can you confirm that everybody is here?
Yes, for the in-person delegates, they are all here.
Okay, but online, I need to check.
VPA and the 2 VPPRC 24-25 candidates are in the Zoom room and in the Zoom.
Yep, thank you. Confirming as well. So we're gonna start with a question for the entire EB. I don't know if you have your phones on you, I can maybe send it to the president's group. If you are there, I guess that can help. So
VPCB candidates are in the Zoom as well.
Yep. Okay, so I will send over Zoom and also in the president's group chat. Hope that helps everybody. So, right. Regarding the various situations during the past months labeled as lack of transparency from the EB, what are your ideas to implement during your term to avoid such and increase EB transparency and accountability? Wait, this was specifically for president at the end, and accountability as president, but it was put for the whole EB. Well, I guess now it goes to the whole EB. I'm sorry. So, Tefo, you can start as the president, and then we go with the order of presentations. So VPPRC, VPCB, VPA, VPF, VPM, etc.
Okay, thank you, Nebosha. Something that I mentioned in my candidature, and that's something that I have been reflecting, is that people, especially the new executive board, needs to learn some procedures and some things about being in the executive board position. First, let's start with the EB meetings. Now that I understand better the problem, I'm going to contact the NMOs during August meeting through the NMO report to understand what they want to see more in the minutes and try to explain better the handover about creating minutes to the next executive board meeting. What we did this term after some of the concerns is that I create a EB report before the March meeting, so I also share it with the NMO so you can see what are we doing. And also try to empower the channels of communication with the VPM, keeping the open space discussions for now, not only presentations that we have been doing, but also for consulting and also for discussing and connecting the NMO presidents. And finally, always being open through the communication channels, feedback forums, and forums that we have been creating. And be open to everyone, receive feedback, talk with people, create open conversations in order to improve the communication of the executive board. And finally, being good with the handover in this type of topics like crisis management, like conflict management inside the EB, especially with the outgoing executive board. Thank you, Nebosha.
Okay, so Pelumi, you go next.
All right, thank you very much for the question. I think the major thing would be ensuring that we have open communication. I think if I was there, probably first thing I'll do is ensure that we have regular updates via the email server, using probably just have a thread where we can continue to update everyone, and then probably also create maybe a platform probably on the website where people can be able to send their questions regarding what the issues we're encountering. Because if we are able to do that, then I think the issue of transparency will majorly be solved. So it's majorly a communication problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Tasha?
Yeah, regarding the lack of transparency, it not only affects the DB dynamic, but also affects our vision and plan of action. So what I want to do is like the open communication. If you are updating anything, just consult with every team members. And also you have to conduct team building activities, because if you increase the team dynamics, there will be development of trust, which will reflect in the work, and there will be a lot of transparency between the EB members. And if there is a small scale of conflict management, try to complete between themselves, that will be huge beneficial.
Thank you. Next we go with Namira.
Hello, everyone. To tackle the lack of transparency, I'll first of all ensure that there's open communication. So every EBM that takes place will ensure that the minutes are sent. All NMO servers will ensure that specific situations that are tackling regional perspectives will be sent via the regional meetings, the regional teams, whether it is from the CBIT perspective or any other standing committee perspective. It was sent towards the regional teams as well. And also, we will also ensure that we have observers on these EBMs, like whether it's animal presidents or certain representatives, so that they can ensure that transparency is ensured all the way through. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Malika?
Regarding lack of transparency and what I plan to do for the next term, like I generally agree with what has been said already. I believe the success of our work and within the federation starts with building the trust within the NMOs and of our members. So I believe we should and we can have more consultations with the NMOs through the open space discussions while we are having important decisions that affects the future of the federation. Like sharing the minutes of the EBM, of course, with sharing the and also having observers in the meetings. Like, for example, we have observers in the TOMs, and it can be also happen for EBMs, and having the feedback forms to the EB each. Yes.
Thank you. Jeff, you go next.
Okay, so starting with like communication is a key, and it's also about networking. It's not a hierarchy system. So if we need to go with transparency and accountability, we need to invest in ourselves, like self-accountable. We can invest in a small strategy like self-awareness, check our character traits, check self-reflection about what achieved, what failed, also self-regulation in like terms of issues. We can like on a scale from 1 to 10 ask about ourselves, like how important is that issue right now. I think if we did this all, it will lead us to utopia of like transparency and accountability. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next we go with Hannah.
Thank you so much for the question. So this is actually a topic that I write a lot about in my candidature, as it's something I would like to see improved next year in this federation. I personally would love to be proactive in communication, and as entire EB, I would hope we would be able to answer all questions that rise up, or at least acknowledge the questions that rise up, even if the answer is we're currently working on it and don't have final answer yet. And I would also like to see more sharing about how the decisions are made, what is discussed, and really the process of how the minutes are shared should be a bit more clear and a bit more detailed, at least in my opinion.
Thank you. We go with Linda.
Hello. Okay, I think that one of the most important things that we have to keep as EB is an open communication policy where we can share all the, where we can provide all the answers in an effective manner and in a timely manner when those questions are like requested. I think that one of the most important things too is to always address the feedback that we have, conduct consultations with the NMOs after that feedback is provided to evaluate the best ways to address those problems. Also, I agree with a lot of the things that I had mentioned before, because in the EV, we also need to improve the communication between all of us in a way that we can address problems in an effective way and allowing us to share like answers and solutions, provide solutions for those NMOs that are requested. I'm sorry, thank you.
Then we go with Zoe.
Okay. Hello, everyone. So this is something I really care a lot about, and I agree absolutely with everything that has been said about open communication. I think we can use the NMO President's meeting as a time for NMOs to really share their inputs. Also, kind of like Hannah said, I think we can really improve on the quality of EBM minutes. And now when I read the minutes, sometimes it's really difficult to understand how the EB actually came to a decision, or sometimes it just says this was discussed, but you don't know what was actually discussed. So I think that's something we can really improve and to make them more detailed. Additionally, I would like to add a feedback form to the EBM minutes so it's easier for NMOs to share their input on it and we can address that. Thank you.
Thank you. Grace?
Yes, so I do believe we need to separate the two concepts. So for me, transparency, first, it comes to the where are we sharing the information? And we need to establish official communication platforms and establish some guidelines to moderate those platforms. And the second one is what are we sharing? I do believe that we need to start to think about how we can share the EB procedures and also minutes and have an open feedback. So this is when it comes to the transparency. When it comes to accountability, I do believe that we have now the IFMSA strategy, which one of the objectives is to start assessing the process of reporting from the IFMSA TO, which the VPM should be leading. So I do believe that having open space discussions on how is the best forward to report based on the IFMSA strategy is something that it's needed, apart from having open space discussions and have different NMOs input on it. Thank you.
Okay. We go with Miko next, and then Lucia.
Amazing, thank you for the question. So to the issue of transparency, there are two layers, internal and external. Internally, what the next EB will have to do is to ensure to build procedures so that every single member of the EB is given equal say in decision-making, as well as every TO member is involved proactively in the work, in the decision-making as we go. When it comes to the external transparency, I think, firstly, we need to address the issues that NMOs are raising. So in president sessions, we can hold debriefs of issues that went wrong during the past months. But also in terms of our response to any global crisis happening, any responses of IFMSA press releases, we need to be very clear and make sure that to no longer fail our members in the time and the way that we address those issues, because this really touches the ground level of IFMSA. And I think that this has been something where IFMSA has a lot of ground to improve.
Rico, thank you. Lucia?
Thank you very much for this question. Regarding lack of transparency, I would like to highlight everything that has already been said. And I would like to highlight that teamwork is crucial during the elect period to try to avoid any kind of misunderstanding within the EB. And everything that can happen. I would like to emphasize regarding VPE work. Right now, you don't have access to external affairs IOGs. You don't know which are the focus areas. You barely can provide input to reports and to advocacy plans. And I think that is very, very important for you to also be involved in this part of external affairs. So together we can really make a change. I will develop a feedback form and also like a communication channel. And after capacitation, the whole EAIT and the LOs and RDs, I think that we can like discuss how to manage anything. And in this August meeting during the elect period, we can also discuss what information regarding external affairs you really want to know about. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now we'll proceed with the candidates related to VPCB and VPE per request so that they can tend to other matters. Okay, we're gonna go with VPCB first. It's basically 2 questions each. So hope you don't mind for like a little bit going faster than usual when it comes to debate. You normally have a little bit of break. So first we went with Namira, now we'll go with Malike. This is a question for both VPCB candidates. Second, so seeing that the current TPAB and CBIT structures is not the most sustainable, with huge loads of trainer approvals and SRT approvals, leaving no time for other important initiatives such as animal empowerment and education, how do you plan on addressing this issue in your term as VPCB elected? Did you catch the question? I shared it in chat as well. Malika, you can go.
Okay, so I thought Namira was going to go first. Can I start?
Yep.
Thank you so much for raising this issue. This was something bothering me from like when I was working as RA, as a trainer, and currently as working as CBDA. To solve this issue, first, I can tell that we propose an RCP to have more TPAB members in the pool, but I also just to ensure that TPAB is working properly, and also we are managing the trainers development activities and also NMO management and also other NMO development activities. I plan to reshape the CBIT roles, either having 2 CBEDAs or having different position for just working on the trainers development and also supporting the TPAB. This was my plan to just ensure that the TPAB is also working properly, and also SRT approvals for the trainers is.
Thank you. Sorry, we have time limits. Namira?
Sorry, can this question be sent in the chat, please? Oh, okay, it's there. Okay. Sorry.
Right. Yep.
Okay. Thank you so much for the question. So for supporting the TPAB, first thing that I would like to do is, like I mentioned already in my candidature, is have a reorganize the trainers database into regional perspectives, into what workshops we have in terms of alumni status, in terms of which workshops are currently active, and basically standardizing all the workshops we have in order to make it much more easier for the TPAB to work, in order to organize which approvals are coming, in order to, it makes it much more easier to organize which trainers do we need right now and not. And in order for the CBIT, how to support the CBIT in terms of SRT approvals, currently we're trying to, we have a current RCP that's we're going to vote on right now for online SRTs and online trainings. This makes it much easier for the CBIT to work on online trainings and online SRTs. so that NMOs can just host trainings without having to host physical meetings, because overall they've not become much sustainable over the past couple of years. So we can support the TPAB by having a much more better trainers database, and also the CBIT by overall changing the perspective of the team by being able to support both the TPAB and the CBIT team. And by doing this, we've been able to have much more eco-friendly and sustainable trainings and trainings. Sorry. Thank you. Yes, yes.
Okay. So I didn't have an individual question for Namira. So I randomly took a question from the other ones that were assigned for VPCB. But if there is a question from the floor, I can take that next. So if anyone has a question for Namira, you can raise your hand, or you can in the Zoom call or in person, and then you can show me. Is there someone in person? If it's one
Yes.
person, give them the floor.
Yes, Sophia IFMC Quebec, she, her. So we can see that in your candidature, you have a lot of different objectives for the mandate. So my question is, how do you plan on addressing all of these objectives efficiently, and what will be your priorities for the mandate?
Okay. Thank you so much for your question. First of all, the first thing that I have is the competency modules for the EB. First of all, there are 3 competency modules I plan to have. That is for the EB, the CBIT, and for the CP representatives. These are very important. If you tackle all these things, we're making sure that all the streams of action that we have are completely effective and they're working, so that once we've taken care of these, all the streamlines of work are all effective and good to go. The trainers database is the next thing. By organizing that, we are ensuring that all the trainers that are applying currently to TPAB are going to be streamlined in the most progressive way possible. Then the online SRTs, online trainings will be the next thing to be doing. So these are the 3 most things that we're working on, first of all, effectively. And by the way that I've organized it, we will definitely have the time to be doing them in the most effective way. And obviously, choosing the CBIT, giving them the most appropriate competency model along with the standing committee directors and the EB members would ensure that this thing can be done in the most efficient and effective way possible.
Thank you. And now we had a question for Maliki. Just copying it here for her. If elected as VPCB, then your first 2 months seem to be very intensive. How does your availability look like at that time?
Yes, thank you so much for the question. Regarding my time management, like currently I'm studying in my 4th and I'm hoping to pass to 5th. And if I elected, I plan to see the curriculum and the workload of the 5th year in the first months till June, and then decide to have a gap year or not. So this is my plan. And if the workload of the academics is really heavy, so I will be having a gap year, and like as I mentioned in my plan of action, I will have a full-time commitment to meet the VPCB task. And I also want to highlight that I'm currently taking more than 1 roles, like as I'm acting as CVDA, SRT coordinator, I'm a trainer. So I'm really good at the time management when it comes to thank you.
Thank you. So with that, we conclude for VPCB. If you need to go for the CB plenary, you're free to. Thank you so much for joining us online. I'm gonna go with VPE candidates now per request. So same situation, we go for question for both. Then we have 1 question for Miko, but for Lucia, we did not receive a question. So if anyone would have a question, we will ask her. If not, we will not. So the question for both VP candidates, I'm gonna copy it in precedence as well, so you can have it. How do you envision the collaboration between the EAIT and the programs team, and how can the use of activities in EA be optimized? I'm gonna repeat. How do you envision the collaboration between the external affairs IT and the programs team, and how can the use of activities in external affairs be optimized? Miko, you can. No, wait, Miko went last time. Lucia, you go first this time.
Thank you very much for this question. So like here, I would like to first of all, like capacitate the liaison offices and the regional directors on how to use the program team and the AIT together, because I think that is something very, very important. And in my term as LO, it took me like some months to realize how to engage programs teams and the different programs and the advocacy efforts for the NMOs toward the advocacy efforts of the IFMSA. Regarding the AIT, I think that is also very, very important, for example, like for the advocacy assistant, to use the advocacy data that we have regarding programs and regarding our NMOs in the different advocacy efforts that we are doing. For example, like when we present something to a conference, we can also show the different advocacy efforts that our NMOs have in that matter. It's not just that we are doing something as IFMSA, it's also that our NMOs are also engaging in our advocacy efforts and in the different initiatives that we are having. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lucia. Miko?
Amazing. Thank you so much for this question. Yesterday, we finally got the BCP that's finally enshrined the alignment of programs into the standing committees. And that's also going to help us tie programs to the liaison officers working within those standing committees. I believe that program coordinators are very motivated people who have a lot of knowledge within their areas of work. And I do not want them only to be the providers of data, however important it is, but also I want those program coordinators to be actively involved in policy making, for them to lead and apply for policies more working groups, for them to inform the efforts that we have externally. I believe that this tied to a better and more robust collection of data by us updating the program descriptions will help us deliver information to the liaison officer that's going to inform all the efforts externally. Thank you.
Then do we have a question for Lucia? If not, we'll go forward with a question for Miko. I have a question online. IFMSA Kurdistan. Question only for Lucia.
Am I audible?
Is he audible in the room? I guess yes. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Ahmed Latif, IFMSA Kurdistan speaking here. I just wanted to ask a question about what steps will you take to get an answer on the use of UN represented countries as a measure in our bylaws to determine full and associate membership? And what do you think will be the outcomes in terms of our relations with the UN and other external partners if we stop using that measure in deciding territories and memberships?
Mr. Kurdistan, could you please repeat the question again for Lucia? And if you have it written, you can send it in President's group as well.
Okay, so I said, what steps will you take to get an answer as the VPE on the use of UN represented countries as a measure in our bylaws to determine full and associate membership? And what do you think will the outcomes in terms of our relations with the UN and other external partners be if we stop using that measure in deciding territories and memberships, and how it ties into the entire representation of IFMSA and our partners as well? Thank you.
Okay, give me one moment that I'm reading. Okay, thank you very much for this question, Hamed and IFMSA Kurdistan. Well, I think that for this, it will need like closer collaboration with the VPM and to see that the work that we have done so far. I would like to highlight that right now we don't have direct access with the UN. The relation that we have with the United Nations is through a platform and through IMIO. So we also need to see how we are going to do this, oh my God, the word in English, this consultation with the UN and to see how we are going to assess also the different things. Regarding the UN, right now we have to do like we did last year, the quarterly report for the ECOSOC status. So I don't think that right now it has affected our relation with the MOU, but it's true that we will need to see if it's going to affect the relations for the next part. But we will need further collaboration with the BPM to see how to directly engage and involve with the United Nations, because as I'm telling you, right now we have like the relation with the UN is through a platform, it's through ICMIO. We don't have a direct relation. Thank you so much.
Okay. And this is the last question for VP, for Miko. How do you see the role of IFMSA alumni in the task force you mentioned in your presentation?
Amazing. Thank you for the question. So the role of alumni in the task force, the VPE task force, will be crucial. What we lack in IFMSA, we don't lack members who are excited about the work, but motivated, who have experience, but we lack institutional memory. So it will be a great challenge for the task force to actually get to know how the division used to function years ago. And in order to be able to comprehensively deliver a structure of task division, of responsibility division between the VPE liaison officers, we will need to have perspectives which none of us at this point have. So we will contact, when the task force is established, we will contact alumni for consultations, whether in person, whether online, through a conversation, through a like an open space discussion, or through some other means that they will have time for. But this data collection and this involvement of alumni will be crucial. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes the VP ones. Thank you. You can go to your obligations. I'm not sure what we had to prepare for, but thank you both for participating and engaging. Okay, for the rest, we'll go standardly with rotating between positions so that candidates can rest a little bit between the questions. We're supposed to have 10 minutes left, but I think we started about 15 later. So is it okay, Tefo, or whoever is facilitating the agenda, for us to have extra 10 to 15 minutes?
After this, we have planified 30 minutes of buffer break, so we can get a little bit over time. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Give me 1 second, Nebojsa. Okay, Nebojsa, we don't have 30 minutes more. If we can adjust to fulfill the hour that it was already scheduled, because we have that's life. We have some delays with the Americas plenary and the CB plenary.
In that case, we would need to proceed with one question now in the room, and you will answer the rest of them online. So the questions will go for all the candidates, and with that, we will conclude. Would that be fine? I think that's about 10 minutes. Okay, we're gonna go with that then. Tefo, you have the first question. Could you elaborate on your plans for EDI to ensure that it's more than just a corporate buzzword in brackets, annotations?
Okay, the concept of the intersectional IFMSA was created like 4 years ago, and this has been a process and a structure that has passed for a lot of development. It was included in the last strategy as a pillar to create an EDI central structure. So now I am working with IFMSA in the intersectional IFMSA steering committee to develop the guidelines. And to be honest, this is something that has been a big delay, because in the past 2 terms, nothing was done in terms of the strategy in EDI. So we are just starting from scratch with the EDI coordinator. So now we are creating the operational guidelines of the EDI that is going to be presented for you for feedback. And after that, we need to create a report on how are we going to implement this structure inside the different levels of the IFMSA, inside the TO, inside the international team, and even with communication with NMOs.
Okay, moving on to VPRC, Pelumi and Tashrif. I hope you're both still here. So now we're gonna go with Tashrif first. The question is, and this is for both, just to clarify, what support can you give to NMOs who wish to showcase their IFMSA membership through their branding?
Can you repeat the question again?
Yes, I'm also gonna copy it in chat. 1 second. So what support can you give to NMOs who wish to showcase their IFMSA membership through their branding?
To branding. So I have elaborated the empowerment of NMOs in my candidature. So first, this has been discussed in the presentation session also. Like Noor, we have RS now. We have created the PRC network now to empower NMOs. My plan is to have online modules for the NMO PRC representative to understand the IFMSA branding and how to utilize it. And we have to create a guidelines for using IFMSA brand. Along with that, one thing I mentioned in my plan of action is the development of campaign toolkits. Like we will be providing campaign toolkits to NMO so that they can align their branding with IFMSA. For example, for WHO campaign, they deliver campaign toolkits to Kando through Kando platform, which will be utilized by the subsidiaries. If we can implement the same strategy in our IFMSA, it will be very helpful to empower the NMOs. Along with that, the capacity building, if we have more capacitated persons in NMOs.
Sorry, Tashrif. Thank you. So now, Pelumi.
All right. Thank you very much for the question. So first off, I'll follow up on the brand usage guidelines for the IFMSA brand for NMOs. Then next is part of my plans was originally that we have sort of like an NMO showcase in the MSI. So that'll be working with the regional directors, of course, but that would be really helpful in helping NMOs to be able to showcase their IFMSA membership. And then finally, providing resources. These will be different PRC resources. I'm also thinking of restarting the NMO PRC webinar series because all these will just help in being able to, for NMOs to be able to see and showcase their IFMSA membership. So yeah.
Thank you. Now the question for the VPA candidate, Abdurrahman or Jeff. You mentioned updating the framework to meet the needs of the Federation. Could you elaborate on what those needs are and what modifications you would like to make? I'm not sure what framework this refers to. If you...
The General Secretariat one.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you so much for the question. Like we after like the relocation of the office, we need to update specific pillars in the IFMSA General Secretariat framework, like the responsibilities and also the office. And as we know, like the IFMSA General Secretariat structure is largely different from how the NMO Secretariat operates. So we need to make the exploratory framework, as I mentioned in my plan. The exploratory framework will be something to explain for the NMOs. It's like will be like the motion maze in the bylaws to like explain it for the NMOs. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we go with the VPF candidates. So we had Hannah first last time. Now we're going to have Linda first. The question is, I'm sending it in President's Group. How will you increase the accountability? And do you have any plans to make finances more understandable to NMOs?
I'm sorry, could you please repeat the last part of the question?
I'm going to repeat the whole thing. So how will you increase accountability? And do you have any concrete plans to make finances more understandable to NMOs?
Okay, yes. Thank you very much for the question. So to increase accountability, we need to, as we mentioned before, like be more open to the information that we have and that we, the decisions that we make and the reasons for why we make those decisions. Also, this is related also to the second part of the question, because in order to make NMOs like more able to understand finances, we should also explain a lot like the strategies that we use to address finances in IFMSA, and of course provide them capacitation, maybe with the workshops that we already have in finances, also providing direct help to the BPF and treasurers, and finding ways to address the problems that they have identified. For example, through the answers in the NMO report. Those. Thank you.
Then we go with Hannah.
Okay, so to increase the accountability, I would really like to have the open feedback form and be accessible to answer questions that arise from any NMO, either via email or during online meetings that I would really like to attend on a regular basis, not only the worldwide ones, but also regional ones. Regarding the capacity building and increasing the understanding of finances in NMOs, I really believe the way we started the workshops and have online platforms that are right now underused, but I would like them to be used a bit more, is the way forward. In the last few years I've been involved in IFMSA, I've seen a huge increase in how finances are being explained, and I would really like to continue on the work done in previous term so that everyone has better idea of what is happening with FMC finances. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go on to the last question, I just want to clarify everyone that the second promised part after the EB debate in terms of sending the top 5, not top 5, but like 5 random questions for the candidates due to time constraints in this EB debate and inability to answer more questions. I do not have enough questions essentially for that. So I don't know if that was because of the plenary length and other circumstances these past days. So the form has been open for some time and it will remain open for 15 minutes after the debate closes to collect the questions and arrange them promptly to be sent to the candidates. If you have any questions you want to further ask, you can use the form for the next, well, VPMs answer the question and then we have 15 minutes after that. I hope that clarifies, and we're gonna go to the VPM question. This is for both of them once again, sending it in WhatsApp. The first one will be Grace. So what are your plans to maintain an active contact with NMOs? How will you collect the perspectives to represent them in the TO? Want me to repeat?
Yes, please.
So what are your plans to maintain an active contact with NMOs? How will you collect the perspectives to represent them in the TO?
Okay, so I do believe that we have different ways to contact NMOs, and in the regional level, my main goal will be to address them through the RD's perspectives. I do believe on increasing the communication between RDs, establishing online meetings, and also following up on the online meetings that they are having with the NMO presidents, in some cases monthly, in some cases in another time frame. And in order to increase the NMO's perspective into the EV, I do believe on having an open feedback form and also having a space where they can request some specific involvement of the EV in their specific initiatives. Another thing that I do believe it's important is that NMOs have the confidence to go to the BPM, and I will make myself available for that. And the last thing I think it's communication. So we will be establishing. Thank you.
Zoe?
Okay, thank you so much for the question. So as we've been talking about a lot, like I believe open communication is super important. I would make sure I'm approachable for any questions. Like Ray said, these are the people who are the close to the NMOs, so I want to like follow up with them as well. Specifically for my ideas, I think we can really use the NMO presidents meetings, the ones for everyone, as a moment to collect more input from NMOs. One of the things I would really like to do is discuss the TOM agendas there. So I can really explain what we are doing in TOM, and NMOs have the chance to give input as well. And I can take that input directly to the TO. Additionally, because of course not everyone can come up with ideas during the NMO presence meetings, I would also use a feedback form so they can always ask questions later. And yeah, use things like this to make sure their opinions are represented. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, due to time constraints, we are done with the EB debate. The form, as I said, is open for extra questions if you want me to share some more with them and facilitate. But all the questions you had, you can always approach them and ask them. They've shared their contacts with you, and I'm certain they'll be happy to reply. Keep in mind that they have their own obligations, so that's why we're facilitating the five questions, because you need them until the NMO hour. Yeah, there was.
Point of information, could we take a picture with all candidates in person and online?
Well, that would be unfair to the ones that left. We should have taken that in the beginning. Sorry.